Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today by supporting the Going In Raw Patreon. You can enjoy access to the live taping of the show, exclusive merchandise, and patron-only episodes, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description. Hi, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome to the Dirt Sheet, the Going In Raw Dirt Sheet. That's right, it's Going In Raw. We're available here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson, also on the Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play. We also have a Patreon if you guys want to support the cause at patreon.com/Steve and Larson. I want to say thank you to everybody out there hitting that download button, the subscribe button, leaving reviews, ratings, all that great stuff.
All that. Thank you.
It's all wonderful. Anyways, Larson, it's funny. You just said this off cam. SummerSlam seemed to have been a more interesting show behind the scenes.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a second. First of all, there's a great little story to come out of dailywrestlingnews.com, and it has to do with Vince in full panic mode behind the scenes leading into Monday Night Raw.
Following SummerSlam, yeah.
Following SummerSlam, because as we all know, throughout the day on Monday, starting in the morning, Finn Balor, he was experiencing some pain in his shoulder, and it got worse and worse, and then it turns out that he had to forfeit the damn title.
Yeah, the torn labrum in his right shoulder.
That's right. And so, Vince apparently was hoping would be, a potential new face of the WWE to replace John Cena, who's now filming a reality show for Fox.
Also to replace the spot that was supposed to be Roman Reigns.
Right, exactly. He wants that money-making face. He wants that face money. And when that turned into Finn Balor being sidelined, Vince was pretty distraught. And on top of that, add Sasha Banks being injured as well.
And then you have the Jericho Lesnar altercation at the end of SummerSlam.
Right. It just sounded like he was just he's 70 years old. He shouldn't have to put up with this shit.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Anyways, according to dailywrestlingnews.com, though, his attitude turned around 180 degrees when he saw Bayley's debut and how well it came over.
Yeah, and apparently, also according to Daily Wrestling News, Bayley wasn't actually set to join the main roster until a few weeks later, probably with the rumored fall NXT call-ups that we heard about a couple, months back or so.
Right.
And then she wasn't originally intended to immediately jump up to a feud with Charlotte for the women's title.
Yeah.
But all that changed once Sasha got hurt.
Yeah.
So now Bayley is going to be going right to the top of the women's division and feuding for the belt, and I assume winning it at, what's the next Raw pay-per-view? Clash of Champions.
Clash of Champions. You think she's going to win it off Charlotte?
Yeah.
You think so?
I think so.
Really?
Maybe not at Clash of Champions, but sometimes.
Kind of makes sense. She has to do. They have to do it like same way they had to put the title on Finn at SummerSlam, because otherwise you're going to stunt their people come in and immediately they get the title. Otherwise their whole career's over. This is really cool. This is a really cool piece of news. Bayley came out on Raw and she immediately looked like she belonged there.
Oh yeah.
She immediately but this is kind of interesting to speculate on is, what do you think their original plans? Okay, so she wasn't supposed to come up until a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
What do you think she would originally
Well, I
be
think,
doing?
the original plans would have been, I assume, Sasha wouldn't have been sidelined with injury, so you would have had your top face in the women's division on Raw. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to have Bayley and Sasha feud right away.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I wouldn't have been surprised if they had done a Bayley-Charlotte feud.
Right, no matter what, because Charlotte wouldn't have the belt.
Yeah.
And then maybe Nia Jax would be hitting up Charlotte for that belt. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nia Jax is an interesting proposition, because how did they not book her to win the belt? You know what I mean? They've got a lot of... The problem, I think, right now is that besides Dana Brooke, there's nobody who can really take a pin without them risking them look... a clean pin without them risking them look weak. Nia Jax has taken on a bunch of jobbers. Sasha Charlotte has always been Sasha Charlotte, Dana Brooke, and Dana Brooke's always the one to take the pin.
Yeah.
So I feel like they need some more. Who else is in Raw?
Alicia Fox is on Raw.
Okay, she could take a pin. Summer Rae could probably take a pin. I don't know where she is though.
Paige is on Raw.
Paige is on Raw, but she's also suspended. And I guess she could take a pin. I mean, I know she can, but again, I'm not sure how weak they want to make Paige look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know.
So I don't know. I mean, it's honestly, it's the kind of thing that just sort of was fortuitous, and not good for Sasha Banks to get injured, but it was a good. there is that sort of, the silver lining on it, I guess, is that Bayley came up the way she deserves to come up, immediately vying for that title.
Yeah.
And I like that Vince was tickled by it. That's very that's a very charming story.
It is.
Like, Bayley makes the old man happy.
Yeah.
So I mean, she made that fucking audience, as Foley came down, they started chanting, "We want Bayley."
Yep.
And
that was a perfect place to debut her.
Oh, yeah.
2 nights after TakeOver.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly. So, but anyways, as we alluded to before, we got some SummerSlam fallout, all sorts of interesting tidbits coming out of SummerSlam.
Yeah, primarily from Wrestling Observer. Mm-hmm. According to them, the original card for SummerSlam, the original card for SummerSlam would have seen Roman Reigns take on Seth Rollins in the main event. I'm sure one of them would have been champion.
Mm-hmm, right.
And then Finn Balor would have had a feud with Chris Jericho.
Okay.
And then AJ Styles was going to win the Universal title, which would have been the SmackDown belt.
When they say original, how original is that?
Prior to Roman Reigns' suspension.
Oh. So the implication here is that Roman Reigns' suspension threw everything out of whack.
Yeah, I think that's
because AJ landed on SmackDown, so he wouldn't have been.
No, that was the original plan, was to put the Universal title on SmackDown, and then the WWE title, which either Reigns or Rollins would have held, would have been on Raw.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Because that's how Dean won it. Okay,
yeah.
All right, interesting. Okay, which would be the SmackDown belt. All right. I wonder if, that Universal title would look even uglier, just being blue.
No, AJ has the red gear. He wore it on SmackDown.
Wait a second. Yeah, I know, but just that belt on SmackDown? You think the Universal title still would have been really red if it was...
No, it probably would have been blue.
It would have been the same thing, only blue.
Yeah. It would look like the tag belts.
Yeah. Well, tag belts are kind of decent.
Yeah.
It would have been ugly.
Or the SmackDown women's belt, but with a blue strap.
Are we done talking about belts yet?
No.
Why do you keep bringing up belts?
Well, you asked the question.
I know, that's why I said that.
So,
so that's kind of interesting.
And also, apparently, if Finn hadn't gotten hurt, he would have gotten into a program with Kevin Owens after SummerSlam, which would have been great.
That would have been fantastic.
That would have been awesome.
And then that would have led to a three-way dance with Jericho, Kevin Owens, and Finn Balor at Hell in a Cell. Which would have been fantastic.
Great.
Would have been amazing. Let's talk about Bret for a second.
Okay.
Bret Hart popping up at the mouth. In one sentence, he says, I respect the hell... This is not verbatim, but he uses the word respect. I respect the hell out of Seth Rollins, but somebody needs to talk to him before somebody gets killed. Before somebody gets... And guess what? Once again, Bret Hart referenced when talking about this.
Do you reference Goldberg?
Yes! Yes, he did. Once again, reference Goldberg ending his career. It's funny because somebody in the YouTube comments when we last talked about Bret Hart and Goldberg said, you guys act like Bret Hart is so bitter. You act like the only reason he retired was because Goldberg concussed him.
Well, I thought he couldn't wrestle after that.
Dude, I'm sorry. That was the only reason he retired at the time.
And that's why he's bitter about it.
Was because he couldn't fight anymore.
He couldn't fly.
He couldn't even fly. I totally get it too. Like I don't criticize him for being bitter about that. I really don't. But when you say things like I respect a guy, but somebody needs to talk to him before somebody gets it. Look, this past week on Going in Raw, we said get rid of the buckle bomb.
Yeah.
It's an ugly move anyways.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a silly move. It's not necessary. And if it seems to be doing more harm than good, then why not get rid of it?
Get rid of
exactly.
It. Yeah. It's not, it is one of Seth's signature moves, but it doesn't have to be. He's like the type of guy that has a large enough arsenal that should be easily replaceable.
He's been around for a long time. I'm sure he has many things. I would find the exact quote from Bret Hart, but this is not
that was close enough.
Yeah. So Bret's back on it. So everybody be aware whenever you botch something or that. Like I'm surprised he didn't talk about Sami Zayn either.
We're on Raw.
Yeah. How dare Seth get flipped?
Seth
stand there while Sami Zayn.
Seth literally did nothing there.
I know. Oh, Bret. Come on now. Enough.
I know.
Let's see here. What else is going on here?
Speaking of wrestler safety.
Yeah.
According to Pro Wrestling or PWInsider.com, The finish to the Brock Lesnar-Randy Orton match was apparently, quote, greatly debated up until the day of SummerSlam. Right. And there was a meeting that took place shortly before the pay-per-view to kind of hash out how the match would go.
Right.
And according to PW Insider, the people at that meeting were Triple H, Mark Carrano, who's an executive in the talent department, Brock, and they said maybe Paul Heyman.
I'm thinking Paul was just like, hey, let's run, Heyman's not actually Brock Lesnar's advocate.
No.
But, he's a creative genius.
Yes.
And you got to bring him in and say, Paul, do you have any ideas for this finish, Paul? Well, let me tell you something, Triple H. That doesn't sound anything like Paul Heyman.
That's nothing like Heyman. It sounds absolutely nothing like Heyman.
Who does that sound like?
That sounds more like Jesse Ventura.
Well, let me tell you something, Triple H. Do you know why we need to end this match in a bloodbath?
Why?
Because I'm hungry. Who wants a
But I thought it was interesting, at least according to PW Insider's report, that Randy Orton wasn't there, since he was one of the two principals in the match.
Hold on. Triple H, Mark Carrano, Brock,
and
maybe even Paul Heyman.
But no Randy Orton.
I don't see Randy anywhere on this.
Yeah, and according to Wrestling Observer, Randy was told the changes to the match, or told that there would be changes to the match upon arriving at the arena. Apparently, according to the same report, that Randy was under the impression that would be a typically booked wrestling match, some back and forth.
Yeah.
But then it was changed to a bloodbath.
I like this here. Apparently the blood was scripted into the match finish, which is interesting because Vince is heavily anti-blood.
Yeah.
But look, this is great. Orton was told that Brock knew how to, quote, graze him in order to bleed without doing serious damage.
Well, the only quote was graze him. That was in quote. Yeah, that's a direct quote from the report.
That wasn't a graze.
No.
That was a direct attack on his head.
The point of the elbow on his forehead, yes.
I mean, I guess there was no serious damage besides losing like a bucket of blood.
And getting 10 staples put in your head, and he's going to have a nasty scar.
If by serious damage here in your notes you mean, without killing him.
Yeah.
And from what we can tell, he didn't, die. Or he wasn't seriously concussed.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't die.
Here's what I found interesting from the Wrestling Observer report. That the match was booked to confuse people, to think that Brock, it was a shoot beatdown.
It confused Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
So mission accomplished.
Yeah, I wonder how many other wrestlers were taken aback by that turn of events.
When I heard the rumor that Brock went off script and started doing it, I was slightly surprised at that, just because I know he's got a relationship with Randy Orton. I mean, they came up together. Yeah. They're both big professionals.
Yeah.
Brock would, I think, obviously respect the fact that Randy is a safe worker. It's like you don't want to be the dick. Nobody wants to be the dickhead. If you know somebody else is a safe worker, you don't want to be the dickhead.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. So I was more apt to just say, okay, the blood was probably when I saw the elbow, I was like, whoa, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. And that made me think, okay, maybe Brock was just going overboard.
Yeah.
As opposed to going off script.
Yeah. Or perhaps it was a situation where when Randy bled, was that the second elbow? Or was there additional elbows that preceded the one that actually caused him to bleed?
There were a bunch of elbows. Well, there from what I could tell, I don't know if there were elbows, but there were a bunch of forearm strikes that came down pretty hard.
I was wondering if maybe Brock was trying to do it, graze him. Grazing him wasn't working, so he's like, "All right, Randy, I gotta land you with one."
That was a nasty gash.
So I don't know.
Is there like a staples definition, like a number of staples required that defines it as a gash, a graze? A bullet shot to the head.
I don't know.
Because this resembled bullet shot to the head.
If they wanted Orton to bleed, how come they just didn't have him?
They should have just had him blade.
Yeah.
That seems to be the much safer way.
That seems to be the much safer way of doing it as opposed to.
Dude, if you look at that picture, that perfectly taken picture with the elbow, that looks like it's buried about 5 inches into his head. I don't know, man. That doesn't seem like the smartest thing to do. It really doesn't. Honestly, shots like that to the head can kill a guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That could literally kill a guy.
Yeah.
That's fucked up, man. Good for Randy Orton, though, man. What a champ. That must have sucked coming to the arena, though.
Yeah.
He's probably like, look, dude, you better give me, at least 5 straight high-profile victories. He's like, can I get another run with the belt?
First one.
He's gotten one already,
First run against Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, he'll win that one easily.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about some NXT?
Sure.
It was kind of a light episode.
I guess we can. We literally saw it when we were there. I mean, we came a little bit. We came right at the tail end of the pre-show.
No, we came
pre-show, dark matches.
We came
right tail end of the TV taping.
We showed up during the Austin Aries No Way Jose match.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we came.
No, we missed the entire pre-show.
I think we saw. I think we. No,
right. We came in during the No Way Jose match.
How did I know the Authors of Pain were standing at? I thought we saw something about the Authors of Pain.
Probably on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, it's probably on Twitter. That's right. You're right. It was on Twitter. So, anyways, we got 2 matches that were filmed at Takeover prior to the card going on. It was the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger.
I'm really disappointed that we missed that match because I wanted to be there to do this with 15,000 people.
Did you see he was wearing the collar again?
I know.
That's how you can tell it wasn't a normal TV taping. It was a Takeover TV taping.
Yeah.
Versus Wesley Blake, who I'm still baffled by his theme music. I don't understand it. It's not like he comes out acting sullen.
No.
He comes out sort of normal.
It doesn't fit.
I don't get the theme music. It's just really slow and
yeah.
weird. It's like a nursery thing.
It's like they intentionally did it to take the air out of the entire arena.
Right?
That's what it seems like.
It does.
It feels like they're trolling the audience.
It totally does.
Here is probably the worst wrestling theme we can put out there.
Oh, by today's standard, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, I can't think of a worse theme, and it's by far.
It's pretty bad.
Think of a worse theme.
Nothing's coming to mind offhand.
I mean, look, there's plenty of generic theme songs out there. Ty Dillinger's is a generic theme song, but there's none that are like off the hook bad.
Yeah.
Who did I say? The Vaudevillains. But theirs is at least in keeping.
It is. It fits
perfectly with their characters.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it still has that ominous bit to it, which is still pretty compelling.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
I mean, I understand.
It's practically easy listening.
Just release the guy. I mean, honestly, I don't get the point. I don't get the point of this.
I don't understand either.
Release him.
The match was okay. Ty Dillinger is always fun to watch.
Yeah. No, I love Ty Dillinger. He's great.
He's pretty fantastic. Wesley Blake, I don't know.
Yeah. We also had TM61. In the first match of theirs that I saw that I was like, oh, I kind of get it with these guys. They're very athletic.
Yeah, they are athletic.
Yeah, I haven't really... to me, they haven't demonstrated that up until now.
And I was worried this was going to be an absolute squash match, but they actually put forth some decent offense.
Corey Graves himself said this is the first time we've seen the Authors of Pain look vulnerable.
Yeah.
You're right. The Authors of Pain did go over now. And then now they have actual names.
Yeah.
Rezer or Razor. It's like Rezer and then something that starts with a G, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't know, Grimley, something like that.
I like their when they powerbomb their opponents into each other's backs.
Yeah, no, I like that too.
That looks like that hurts.
Well, what was the name of Martin Short's character? Grimley?
Yeah.
I always thought he was pretty funny. Let's see here. And then in the CWC...
Well, here, look, we could talk about also on NXT how much of it was recaps of TakeOver.
I know. That's why I literally texted you and said, you don't really need to watch this week.
But Ty Dillinger was on the show, so I felt like I needed to.
Yeah, I know. And then, it was all like recap. So next week on NXT is going to be the first time we get to see Shinsuke wearing that lovely belt.
Correct.
Yeah, so next week should have our first batch of
But
also
stuff on this week's NXT is my first chance to see Joe's face after taking
I was watching for that too, yeah.
Not good.
There's that one shot of him with absolute desperation in his face because he's like, oh, what am I going to do? I can't eat now.
But now he says on Twitter that he's going to be cleared hopefully soon.
It's good to go. He's eating Rice Krispie treats already.
Just a dislocated jaw, not a broken one.
I wouldn't be scared unless I was dressed up like a hamburger.
Let me ask you this. When does Joe go into Maine? After the next TakeOver? So they're going to have a rematch, right? When would be the next TakeOver? November?
August, September, October, November. It's going to be November.
You think so?
Or is it in conjunction with... Are they in conjunction with the Big Four?
Sometimes, but not always.
When's the Survivor Series? November?
Yeah.
Yeah, November.
Okay.
I'd say November is probably TakeOver.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just... There was a whole lot of filler there. Then there was like a really awkward backstage. There was a really funny-ish backstage thing with Austin Aries where he was talking about, people aren't going to make a name off him. And he says, No Way Jose didn't, and so-and-so didn't. Oh, and Hideo Katami's not going to. And then he starts to walk away. He turns back at the camera and says, and neither are you. That was pretty funny. And then there was sort of an awkward backstage thing with Bayley and Ember Moon, where Ember Moon was like, hey, I love you. And Bayley says, I love you. And it was just kind of awkward. Bayley's charmingly awkward, but sometimes she's just awkward. She says, maybe we can have a match. Anyways, I love Bayley. She's great. I love that she wears a windbreaker to the ring.
I know.
That's great. I love the windbreaker.
Fantastic.
Bring back the windbreaker. Then the Cruiserweight Classic. I was kind of underwhelmed this week by the Cruiserweight Classic, I'll be honest with you.
They set a very high bar with
that's the problem.
Kota Ibushi, Cedric Alexander match.
That one, and then Gargano Ciampa also set a very high bar. And then Gargano Ciampa, and I know it's not the Cruiserweight Classic, but those two guys, which is when I see them, those two guys versus the Revival set such a high bar for just seeing them in a match.
Yeah.
And I thought that Gargano versus TJ Perkins, okay. Zack Sabre Jr., I'm going to watch some more of his matches. I want to get on board with this guy.
Yeah.
Looks kind of like I don't know. He looks underwhelming. I get that he's got great technical ability. I appreciate that. But that's never been on my list of priorities in terms of what I look for in a wrestler. Oddly, technical wrestling is not high on them.
Well, I think back in Bret Hart's days, when he was talking about, or there was talk about what a great technician that he was, the pace of going through, various submission moves and holds was generally slower.
That's another thing Bret said, is that he said in my 26 years or whatever it was, 32 years, 26, whatever it was, years of wrestling, I wrestled a technical style and I never hurt anybody. Kind of comparing himself to Seth Rollins, and I'm like, well, Seth Rollins wrestles in really exciting matches. I don't feel like you did that, Bret. And I know we got a lot of Bret Hart fans out there, and I'm sorry. I know. I respect Bret for whatever. But Seth Rollins wrestles a really, really exciting style. And yes, sometimes that leads to people's noses exploding.
Yeah.
And sometimes that leads to buckle bombs, which put careers out of business. But I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah. Change, like bring it down a notch just a second. Just a little bit, Seth.
Just get rid of the buckle bomb.
Get rid of the buckle bomb and just half a notch. Just slow down half a notch. Daniel Bryan needed to learn to slow down a notch. Might still be wrestling today. I mean, that's just what those guys know, I guess.
Yeah.
Better to love and lost than never loved and
lost. But I agree with you on Zack Sabre.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that match was good. Some of the spots were good. Yeah. Some of the transitions from various moves and holds were really good. And they managed to have a predominantly technical wrestling match that still felt like it had momentum and excitement behind it.
Yeah.
Far too often it's just headlock to armbar.
Yeah.
But they were doing some crazy submission moves and stuff like that. It was neat.
All right. We had Rich Swann. I like Rich Swann. Versus Lindsay Dorado.
Dorado.
Come on, Dorado.
It's a good match.
Yeah, it was a good match. Again, wasn't a barn burner like some of the other ones I've seen, but it was good. I'm looking forward to next week, which will have just more fights.
Do you know who's wrestling next week?
No idea. Just looking forward to something else. Once it's done, I'm like, look, I know what the CWC can give me. So I'm just every week I get something I don't want. I'm looking forward to the next week. Maybe I'll get what I want. I'm looking forward to next week NXT because I get to see my man Shinsuke Nakamura wear that belt. King of Strong Style.
Yeah.
50% of that arena is going to be filled up, or Full Sail is going to be filled up with Nakamura shirts. I guarantee that, man.
Yeah. It was pretty nuts at Takeover.
All red everything.
At Takeover, that at least 30% of the audience.
At least, man.
Had Shinsuke shirts.
Yeah. We also have a question from a friendo.
Oh, yeah.
Jefferson. Our good friendo Jefferson and lovely patron over there at patreon.com/Stephen Larson. I'm just trying to pad this sucker out.
No, we're fine.
Only 24 minutes?
We're
that's
fine.
it?
Usually they're between 25 and 30 minutes. We're good.
Screw that. I want to do an hour every single time. Every time out, an hour.
It's too much talking.
By
the end of the week, I'm tired of talking.
We know an half hour to fill today.
No.
Yeah.
Let's answer this question.
All right, let's answer this question. He want to know what's our least favorite jobs we've ever held down. What's your least favorite job you ever held down, Larson?
Probably delivering phone books.
What a miserable job.
During the summer.
That's horrible. What a terrible job to have. Mine was by no doubt in my mind. I'll take you through a brief resume. I worked at Sears in their key cutting department and engraving gifts department when I was in high school still.
I remember that.
That was cool. You're up on your feet and then you're engraving stuff. There's a little bit of artistry involved in that, kind of, not really. And then cutting keys, that was whatever. But there were some good people there. I worked at Kinko's. That was a blast. Because sometimes people would bring in pictures of naked people they knew. and they'd have me like make color copies of them. They like blow them up to like page size, like this size. Not page size, but page size. Like
interesting.
8.5 by 11. So I get to see some naked. Sometimes we'd like try to sneak some extra copies to the side, and sometimes you get caught. They'd be like, "What do you do over there?" I was like, "Oh, a couple of these got messed up." So, and they're like, "Well, I want those too." I'm like, "All right, here you go." It's like, damn it. It's like, dude, I just want to see you naked.
It sounds like you're just going through your resume as opposed to saying what was your worst job.
It wasn't Kiko's because I got copies of naked.
Well, then tell them what your worst job is.
Telephone banking. That was the worst, and I did that for a long time.
Yeah, you did do that for a while.
I did that for like 6 years. I worked in a customer service phone. I mean, the good thing about that, look, most jobs you have, you work with decent people. You know, it's like you're always going to find other people to be miserable with you. And in that respect, like I met a lot of people. It was a lot of fun. But you know, having like a headset on your ear and it's all boop, and it's like, God, welcome to Shit Heel Banking. This is Steve. I can help you. That kind of stuff. And then I'm overdrawn. Why am I overdrawn? And then it's like, I'm writing down their credit card numbers, using them for shit.
Probably shouldn't say that.
I didn't do that. I knew people who did that. I didn't do that shit ever. What? I just said I didn't do it.
Okay, that's good for you.
But I knew people who did it.
Probably shouldn't say that either.
Why? I don't know their names. That was like 11, 12 years ago.
I remember
Shit, longer than that.
I remember delivering phone books. We weren't paid by the hour. We were paid by the number of phone books we delivered.
Yeah.
I think. This is a while ago. It was probably
dump a bunch in the
20 years ago. I think it was like 20 years ago I did that. Right out of high school.
Yeah.
That lasted a few days. I think that's, there's only so many phone books to deliver.
Right,
it wasn't like a full-time job. It was just like something to do for a few days, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, one of the happiest days of my life was leaving my last telephone banking job. Just because it was, who doesn't want to leave a job? And then we started working for Machinima, and now we're doing pro wrestling podcasts. Mm-hmm. So it's been all thumbs up from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I haven't had any miserable jobs.
No.
One time I was training for a job. I went through one day of training, and on the second day, again, it was like outbound telephone call. I don't know why I ever thought that was a good idea. It was for outbound like survey telephone call. We'd call up businesses or some shit like that. I don't know. Anyways, on the second day of training, we went through like half a day of training. And the second half of the day was going to be us actually getting on the phones and doing shit. And so I was like, thinking to myself, I haven't been paying attention at all. I don't want to do this shit at all. So I was like, yeah, I got to run to the bathroom really quick. Then I just left.
Yeah.
And it was like such adrenaline leaving that place. It was great because I thought somebody was going to catch me, but they didn't. And then I got a pink slip in the mail with like a $34 check for my training.
There you go.
And it said, under reason for termination, went to bathroom, never returned. Very accurate.
That's true.
I should have framed that shit.
You should have. Do you still have it?
No, I kept it for a while.
Yeah, that's a good memento.
I kept it for a little while, but I never framed it.
What do you think, in your estimation, would be the worst job?
The worst job to have?
Yeah.
I would say, like, for me personally anyways, it would be a cop. I think it would be cop. Because you just get, A, you get shit on. And B, because there's so many bad cops out there, you get shit on doubly in the case that if you are a good cop. Because there's plenty of them out there,
Yeah.
That would be terrible. Because you kind of only deal... When's the last time you called the cops?
Probably when my car was stolen.
When did that happen?
20 years ago.
Okay. So you don't make a habit of calling cops for various things. Neither do I. Generally speaking, if you call the cops a lot, you probably have some problems in your household. You know what I mean? And generally those aren't pretty. So cops have to deal with a lot of ugly, ugly shit, I mean, in the same respect, being a soldier too, I'm not sure I'd ever want to do that because then you got to go over there and like either shoot people or just deal with people shooting you. That's a terrible thing. That would be horrible, So I have a lot of respect for good cops and good soldiers out there. All the respect in the world. What about you? What do you think were the worst? Not those. What do you think were the worst jobs?
People have to clean porta potties.
That would be terrible. That would be horrible. Wait, hold on a second. Do porta potties, are they cleaned out by humans?
Yeah, there's a truck. There's a truck.
They bring a giant hose.
They do bring a giant hose, but in case of some malfunction, you could have
the margin of error goes from acceptable to horrific immediately.
I would say that, or people have to clean up crime scenes.
You know what's funny? That's probably horrible. But I wouldn't even put that on my list of top 20 worst jobs.
Yeah.
Because once you're there and you've done it for, let's say, a year, it might be a horrifying year.
You get desensitized to a certain extent, I'm sure.
Unless it's like kids. Then, oh, lordy be. But, you know, if it's like a couple of bad guys who got shot by other bad guys or something like that, you know, or even just like a regular, like a husband murders a wife or vice versa, you get used to that. I would think you'd get used to it. Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe you just put on some like I don't know what you do in that case. That sounds pretty bad. Maybe that cracks top 30. You know, a job would be horrible. It'd be terrible.
What?
Bret Hart's podcast producer. You probably come to work. You know, I go over there the other day. I go over to that bagel shop and they give me a bagel. They gave me a bagel and it was terrible. It was a terrible bagel. Do they know I wrestled 26 years in this business and they give me a bagel that tastes like that crap? That was absolute crap.
I never hurt anybody in my entire career, but this bagel just hurt my feelings.
That would be horrible.
It hurt my taste buds.
Okay, Brett, we got a lot to cover today. Yeah, you want to go talk about that Seth Rollins guy?
Can we spend 2 hours on Seth Rollins?
We did that yesterday, Brett, and the day before. I know, but I thought about a lot more stuff last night.
Have I mentioned Goldberg?
Hey, Brett, you want to get Goldberg in on the podcast? What? What did you say? I was just joking, Brett. By the way, I quit. I'm going to go work for Chris Jericho's podcast. You bitter son of a bitch. Anyways, wow. That was a good discussion. All right, anyways, what are we at now?
We're over a half hour.
All right, we're over a half hour. I want to say thanks to everybody out there for all your questions and tuning in and downloading and all that kind of stuff. It's Friday, so go out and enjoy your weekend. Be safe. We got a great top list coming up. Top 10 stiffest workers.
Correct.
It's going to be showing up hopefully on Saturday.
And hopefully we'll get our second SummerSlam weekend video up this weekend too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, should be a lot of fun. So until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.